Hey guys. Hopefully too. Hey guys, welcome back to some more Gen Con 15 footage with the Gamers Remorse. We are here with the designer of Star Trek 5-Year Mission. It's really exciting to be able to talk to you about this game. And you were given a little bit of a backstory, but what can you tell us about creating 5-Year Mission?
Oh, okay. Well, I've been a demo person for Mayfair for almost a decade now. They've taken a liking to me and brought me into their camp, and they've allowed me to show my games to them over the years to see if they're interested in publishing them. This is actually the first one they've accepted. I've shown them several others.
Okay.
I decided to do the Star Trek game because Bob there had told me after they'd done Star Trek Catan that they were interested in doing another Star Trek game. I figured the odds of someone walking up to him with one was not very good, so I thought I'd make them one. Yep. It took me about 2 years in development to get it ready, and last fall I finally showed it to them. They accepted it, and we've been really hammering at it to get it ready for market, refining it, getting the artwork done, and getting the packaging done, and getting it ready specifically for this show.
And one of the things that, as you were kind of giving a demo there, we noticed is the art is actually from, it sounds like, the archives. How did you guys work with them to get access to all of that art and everything?
That's actually their job. So I did screenshots in my prototype, and I guess they decided to keep going with that as we went along. We did change a lot of the screenshots, a lot of the titles on the cards and such. But yeah, we went with the same idea, so we have that feel of the original shows.
So the game plays 3 to 7 players, and each player has variable player powers. So then as you scale up in players, does the game scale along with the number of players, or how do you handle the addition of new player powers into the complexity of the game?
Well, yeah, it does add complexity to the game, and it gives you more flexibility, I think. There are special abilities you can earn from completing cards, and one of them is that you can use another player's ability. So when you're playing with a lot of people, that ability becomes very strong because you have a lot of choices to work with. But as it goes, like I said, I think it's a little easier playing with more people than playing with few people. But otherwise, we don't make any effort to scale the difficulty in the game.
And in the design process, how did you come to choose which generation of Star Trek you wanted to work with? Was that made mid-production, or at the start did you say, I really want Data to be a playable character? Like, how did you come up with that?
Actually, that was very late in the process. So after they had accepted the game, they had decided that they wanted to do something between both series, and so we started working, coming up with new character abilities, deciding which new scenes we were going to use that tied in with what was going on in the cards. The ones that cause damage to the ship come from episodes or scenes where the ship is being damaged, or when the crew is being injured, it comes from things that actually injure the crew in those episodes, and so on and so forth.
So I would presume part of the research involved a lot of watching Star Trek, which I'm kind of jealous that you could count that out as work.
I did. Running up in the last 2 years, I did watch an enormous amount of original series, and then when we went in and needed to do next gen, started hitting that really hard.
So in preparing the game, it sounded like, from what we were being told beforehand, you were also working with a similar idea with, was it Captain Cook, I believe?
Oh, well, actually, it wasn't a similar idea. It was always this game. The thing is, when I was taking it out for testing, I didn't want to take it out as a Star Trek game because there's fandom involved, and I didn't want people just to be happy with the game just because it was a Star Trek game. So what I did is I did a version of the game, a crew and the ship, and it was basically called HMS Victory, and I tested it as that for almost the entire process of testing of the game. Yes.
So you can actually make sure people like the mechanics, not just the theme.
Yes.
That's really cool. So then with this, it's focused, you have this 5-year mission, you're trying to succeed before the Enterprise is destroyed.
Well, there's 2 failure conditions. The Enterprise being destroyed is one of them. The other one is failing a number of missions, and basically, fail 5 missions, you're recalled. And that's...
You don't want to disappoint the USS. So do you have any plans for future expansion down the road, or are you guys going to try to gauge based on the reception?
I think we're going to gauge based on the reception, but I have already started preparing materials in case it happens. Things happen really fast in the market, and if we have demand for it, I want to be ready. So I've already been working on things, and we'll just have to see how it pans out.
I mean, it's one of the games that you can't go very far without hearing people talking about it here. And part of it is they do have people from the cast cast of Star Trek that are here, and so I think that helps bring some of the awareness of the game. But when you were designing the game, did you start saying, I really want to use a dice rolling mechanic, or I want specific missions? Like, when you started the game, what was your intention?
Yeah, well, initially when I decided to do the game for Mayfair, I came up with several ideas, and then I looked out on the market and said, these are really very similar to games that have been done for the Star Trek franchise. And it took me quite a while, actually, to come up with something that hadn't been, a style of game that hadn't been done. There's only one other dice Star Trek game, and it's a much different kind of game altogether. So, it took me several months. I was actually in a waiting room at one time when it sprung on me how to do this mechanic, and I had to scrounge for some paper and pencil to get it down so I didn't lose the idea. Yep. And then I went from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so kind of looking at outside of just Star Trek, you mentioned that you've been doing demos for Mayfair for quite a while.
Yeah.
You've been working on other games as well that you've been pitching. Yeah. So as a designer, how long have you had this kind of passion to not only play games, but to design them as well?
About 13 years ago, I decided. I did a little abstract game that was very popular with abstract game devotees. And I thought, well, I can do other kinds of games. And so I started, doing some things that were a lot more Euro style. And it took me quite a few years to get my first games published. Mm-hmm. But, now that I'm a little more established, got a photobomb there, got a little more established now, it's a little easier to approach people and get them to look at your game, so it's nice.
Yeah. And we have a lot of people that follow us that are potential future designers themselves, a lot of indie designers. So kind of when you were getting into that, do you have anything that just helped keep you motivated or kept you continually working on new designs, taking them to publishers? Like what helped you get through some of that?
Well, for me, I'm just a little bit obsessive about things. So I get passionate about something and get driving on it. The other thing happened is quite a few years ago, back when I was getting started, I met up with Mike Petty. He's the guy that started Protospiel, or one of the guys that made Protospiel. He had me, invited me to Protospiel, and I went, became friends with him, and eventually I started running Protospiel. And so we have these game design conferences, which are very energizing. You get in there with a lot of other designers, get good feedback on your game so you can improve them.
Yeah. And that's the thing I've noticed, stuff like Protospiel, for example, there is a lot of this community building up around designers. Yep. I mean, there's even here in Gen Con, there's a playtest area where they have a lot of games, and that's kind of fun seeing people go in and volunteer their time to play some of these games. But how about looking outside of this down the road? Are there any new games that you're working on or new IPs that you'd like to experiment with?
I'm actually working with a wizard dueling game that I've been working on for quite a while, and I finally refined it down to a very simple idea. I started with a very grandiose idea, and it turned out to be a very long, slow game, and all my testers kept saying, I really like this part of the game, I really like this part of the game, but it's too slow and too long. So eventually I just kept tearing things off the game, tearing things off till I had a core, and now I'm finally refining that. Hopefully it'll be ready to show by this time next year.
Fantastic. That's one of the things we asked another person earlier, and they said, well, the hard part is taking some of that criticism and saying, but I worked really hard adding this. Yes. But I think that's a big key, is saying, okay, you don't like it, well then let's strip it, let's add something else.
You have to learn to be kind of thick-skinned, because I like to say, don't tell me my game stinks, tell me why my game stinks, so I can fix it. Yeah. And you just have to get used to taking that criticism and understanding that it's not an attempt to be mean or anything. They really genuinely don't like something about the game. Yep. So, and it probably means it needs fixed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And hopefully that can aid you in creating a better game.
Oh yes, and that's why we do so much iteration in game design. I mean, generally you're going to test, improve, and depending on how easily it comes around. I mean, the quickest game I ever brought around took a year to finish.
So coming back to 5-year mission, were there any of those things that people were like, this just isn't working, that you had to strip, that you might either try to maybe implement another game, or?
Actually, no. But there were things I didn't like about it, I thought were broken about it, and I changed. Okay. So it wasn't so much they didn't like about it. There were some things that actually made it way too easy that I had to take out of the game. Mm-hmm. The dice mechanic had to be changed slightly.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right, well, thank you for your time. It's been an honor talking with you very much, and I'm looking to see what else comes out of this game and from you yourself.
Okay,
thank you greatly.